Imagine 1985, sending a message to a friend in another city. You write a letter by hand. You put it in an envelope. You walk to the post office. And then you wait 3 days. Now imagine this. It is today. You pick up your phone. You type a message. You press send. Your friend reads it in 3 seconds. They are on the other side of the world. What changed? Everything. In less than 50 years, human communication changed dramatically, more than in 5,000 years prior. And it all started with a small group of scientists, a Cold War, and a big question. What if computers could talk to each other? This is the story of the Internet age. Hi, and welcome to Daily English Origins. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. The Internet is everywhere today. It is in your phone. It is in hospitals, schools, cars, and kitchens. Billions use it daily. Most never think where it came from. They never ask, who built this? Why? How did it begin? The answer is surprising. It did not begin as shopping or social media. It did not begin as entertainment. It began as a weapon against fear. To understand the story of the Internet, we need to go back in time. Back to a world that was cold, dangerous, and divided. The year is 1957. The world is watching the sky. On October 4th, the Soviet Union launched a small metal ball into space. It was called Sputnik. Sputnik means traveling companion in Russian. This small ball orbited the Earth. It just beeped. That was all it did. It just beeped. But that beeping sound terrified America. The United States and the Soviet Union were locked in something called the Cold War. The Cold War was not a real war. It was a long, tense competition between two superpowers, the U.S. and USSR, for power, technology, and world influence. Both sides had nuclear weapons. These bombs can destroy entire cities. When America heard Sputnik beeping overhead, leaders asked one terrifying question. If Soviets can put a satellite in space, can they send a nuclear missile to destroy us? The answer was possibly yes. America needed to respond quickly. In 1958, the United States government created a new agency. It was called ARPA. ARPA's job was clear. Use science and technology to stay ahead of the Soviet Union. ARPA hired brilliant scientists and gave them a simple instruction: think big. Solve impossible problems. One of those problems was communication. American military leaders were worried. America's communication systems, telephone, military radio, command centers, ran through central hubs. If an enemy missile destroyed just a few of these central hubs, all communication would collapse. The entire military could go silent. The country could fall apart in minutes. Scientists at ARPA asked a radical question. Radical means very new and different. What if there was no center? What if a network could survive after partial destruction? This question changed the world. A scientist named Paul Barron had an idea. Instead of one central path, what if you broke the message into tiny pieces? These pieces would travel through many different paths. If one path was destroyed, they'd find another way. They would reassemble at the destination. This idea was called packet switching. Think of sending a puzzle by mail. Instead of one box, cut it into pieces. Cut it into 50 pieces, mailing each in a different envelope through different cities. Even if some envelopes get lost, most pieces arrive. The puzzle can still be rebuilt. In 1969, ARPA built the first real version of this network. It was called ARPANET. ARPA plus net, short for network. A network is a system of connected things. ARPANET connected 4 universities, UCLA, Stanford, UC Santa Barbara, and the University of Utah. These 4 computers were the first nodes. A node is a single point in a network. On October 29, 1969, a student at UCLA named Charlie Klein typed the very first message over ARPANET. He tried to type the word login. The system crashed after just 2 letters. The first message on the Internet was LO. It was an accident, but it felt like a hello. Through the 1970s, ARPANET grew slowly. More universities connected. More scientists joined. But it was a tool for a small, elite group. Ordinary people never heard of it. Scientists used ARPANET to share research. They sent files. They exchanged data. Then, in 1971, something unexpected happened. Ray Tomlinson created a new tool. He wanted scientists on different computers to leave each other messages like digital notes. He called it electronic mail. Today, we call it email. Tomlinson chose the @ symbol to separate a person's name from their computer's address. He chose it for a simple reason. Nobody used @ in names, avoiding confusion. That small decision, choosing one tiny symbol, still shapes how billions communicate today. Email spread quickly through the academic world. Scientists loved it. It was faster than letters and easier than phone calls. For the first time, researchers across the country, and eventually the world, could collaborate or work together without being in the same room. The Internet was still invisible to most people, but it was growing, and something much bigger was coming. In the early 1970s, computers were enormous. They filled entire rooms. They cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Only governments, universities, and large corporations, that is, big companies, could afford them. But in Silicon Valley, California, a new generation of young engineers had a different vision. Vision means a clear picture of what the future could look like. In a garage in Los Altos, California, 2 young men named Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak were building something extraordinary. Extraordinary means very unusual and impressive, far beyond the ordinary. In 1976, they introduced the Apple I, a personal computer that an individual person could actually own and use at home. A year later came the Apple II, which was more polished and more powerful. Around the same time, a young man named Bill Gates and his friend Paul Allen started a company called Microsoft. They believed that one day every home in America would have a computer. People laughed at this idea. It seemed impossible. Computers were for scientists, not families. But Jobs, Wozniak, and Gates were right. By the early 1980s, the personal computer, often called the PC, was entering homes, schools, and small businesses. People were learning to type. Children were playing games on screens. The machine that once filled a room now sat on a desk. The stage was set. The Internet had the network. Now it had the audience. By the late 1980s, ARPANET had grown into a larger global network simply called the Internet, capital I. Internet comes from interconnected networks, meaning many networks all linked together. Scientists and academics around the world were connected. But the system was still complicated. You needed technical skills to use it. It was not built for everyone. Then came a quiet British scientist working in Switzerland named Tim Berners-Lee. In 1989, Berners-Lee wrote a simple proposal, that is, a written plan or suggestion, to his boss at a physics laboratory called CERN. His idea was to create a simple system that would let scientists easily share documents over the Internet. Instead of complicated commands, users would click on highlighted words called hyperlinks and jump from one document to another. His boss read the proposal and wrote just 4 words back. Vague, but exciting. Berners-Lee kept working. In 1991, he launched the first ever website. His invention had a name, the World Wide Web. The web was not the same as the Internet. The Internet was the network of wires and computers. The web was a system built on top of the Internet, designed to make it easy, visual, and accessible to anyone. In a historic act of generosity, Berners-Lee made his invention free. He gave it to the world. No patents, no fees, no company owned it. This decision, one man choosing not to become a billionaire, meant that millions of people and small businesses could build on the web without asking permission or paying anyone. It was perhaps the most consequential gift in human history. Consequential means having a very large and lasting effect on the future. The age of the Internet was no longer just a military project or an academic tool. It was about to become personal. The early 1990s felt like a gold rush. A gold rush is when large numbers of people rush to a new place or opportunity, hoping to get rich quickly. In the 1800s, people rushed to California looking for gold in the ground. In the 1990s, entrepreneurs rushed to the Internet looking for gold in the digital world. Entrepreneurs are people who start new businesses, often taking big risks to do so. The first web browser. A browser is software that lets you view websites. Was introduced to the public in 1993. It was called Mosaic. And it was created by a young student named Mark Andreessen at the University of Illinois. For the first time, the web had pictures, colors, and clickable links. It looked friendly. It looked inviting. It looked like something your grandmother might actually use. Mosaic changed everything. Within a year, millions of people were going online, that is, connecting to the Internet for the first time. A year later, Andreessen launched an improved browser called Netscape Navigator. It became the most popular window into the new digital world. Companies scrambled or moved quickly and desperately to build websites. Newspapers, banks, stores, and restaurants all wanted a presence on the web. Many had no idea what they were doing. But they knew one thing: if you weren't on the Internet, you didn't exist. The Internet was no longer a military project or an academic tool. It was becoming a marketplace, a library, a social space, and a business opportunity unlike anything the world had ever seen. Between 1995 and 2000, something extraordinary and reckless happened simultaneously. Simultaneously means at the same time. Investors, people who give money to businesses hoping to earn more money back, poured billions of dollars into Internet companies. These companies were called .coms because their website addresses ended in .com. The logic seemed simple. The Internet was the future. Therefore, every Internet company would become enormously valuable. Companies with no profits, no products, and sometimes no real plan received millions of dollars in investment simply because they had a website and a clever name. A profit is the money a business earns after paying all its cost. Many .coms had zero profits, but enormous ambitions. Some companies from this era survived and became legends. Amazon started in 1994 as an online bookstore in Jeff Bezos's garage in Seattle. Bezos believed that the Internet could sell not just books, but eventually everything. People thought he was crazy. They were wrong. eBay launched in 1995, letting ordinary people buy and sell items to each other online. It was like a permanent global garage sale. But hundreds of other companies burned through their money recklessly. Recklessly means without thinking carefully about consequences or risk. They threw money at advertisements, office parties, and expensive headquarters without ever figuring out how to actually make money. In March 2000, the bubble burst. A bubble in finance is when prices rise far above real value, like a soap bubble expanding beyond its natural limit. When the dot-com bubble burst, stock prices collapsed. Trillions of dollars in value disappeared. Thousands of companies went bankrupt. That is, they ran out of money and closed. The offices emptied. The dreams seemed dead. But not every dream died. The survivors from this crash were the ones who truly understood the Internet, and they were about to reshape the world. In 1998, two PhD students at Stanford University, Larry Page and Sergey Brin, launched a search engine from a friend's garage in Menlo Park, California. A search engine is a tool that helps you find information on the Internet. Before Google, search engines existed, but they were not very good. They showed results based on how many times a keyword appeared on a page. This meant that low-quality pages could easily trick the system. Page and Brin had a better idea. They called it PageRank. The idea was elegant and simple. A web page was important if other important web pages linked to it. Think of it like academic citations. If many respected scientists quote a research paper, that paper is probably valuable. Google applied this same logic to the entire web. The results were dramatically better. People searched for something and actually found what they were looking for. This sounds obvious. In 1998, it was revolutionary. Revolutionary means so new and different that it completely changes how things are done. Google grew at a breathtaking speed. Breathtaking means so impressive or surprising that it almost takes your breath away. By 2000, it was processing tens of millions of searches every day. By 2004, when the company went public, selling shares to ordinary investors, it was worth billions of dollars. Google didn't just find information, it organized information. For the first time in human history, almost any question a human being had ever asked. In history, science, medicine, cooking, law could be answered in less than 1 second. The entire accumulated knowledge of civilization was becoming searchable. The Internet had given humanity a memory. Google gave it a mind. In 2003 and 2004, a new kind of Internet platform emerged. Emerged means appeared or came into existence gradually. These platforms were not about finding information or buying products. They were about something much more fundamental to human nature: connection. MySpace launched in 2003 and became the first truly popular social network. A social network is an online platform where people create profiles, share content, and connect with friends. MySpace let users customize their pages, share music, and message each other. For a few years, it was the most visited website in the United States. But in February 2004, a 19-year-old Harvard student named Mark Zuckerberg launched a small website from his dorm room. He called it the Facebook. It was initially, or at first, only for Harvard students. Within a month, half of Harvard was using it. Within a year, it had expanded to universities across America. By 2006, it was open to everyone. Facebook, it dropped "the" from its name, grew faster than any company in history. It reached 1 million users in its first year, 10 million the next, then 100 million, then 1 billion. Today, nearly 3 billion people use Facebook every month. That is more than 1/3 of every human being alive on Earth. Facebook changed something deep about how humans relate to each other. Old friends reconnected. Families stayed in touch across continents. People with rare interest found communities of others who shared those interests, no matter where in the world they lived. But Facebook also introduced something new and troubling. Information, both true and false, could now spread to millions of people in minutes. The same tool that reconnected long-lost friends could also spread misinformation. Misinformation means false or inaccurate information, especially when it is spread widely and believed by many people. The Internet had given humanity a voice. Now everyone was speaking at once. For all its growth, the Internet still had a limitation in 2006. Limitation means something that restricts or holds back progress. To access the Internet, you needed a computer. A computer meant a desk, a chair, a power cable. The Internet was powerful, but it was not free. Then, on January 9th, 2007, Steve Jobs walked onto a stage in San Francisco and said something that made the audience gasp. Every once in a while, a revolutionary product comes along that changes everything. Jobs held up a small glass rectangle. It was thin. It had no keyboard, no stylus, no buttons, except one. It fit in the palm of your hand. He called it the iPhone. The iPhone was not the first mobile phone. It was not even the first smartphone. Phones with some computer functions had existed before. But the iPhone was the first phone that felt like holding the entire Internet in your hand. It had a large touchscreen. It had a real web browser. It had maps, music, email, and a camera. And within a year, it had an app store, a digital marketplace where independent developers or programmers who work for themselves could build and sell software directly to iPhone users. The App Store created an entirely new economy overnight. Small teams of 2 or 3 people could build an app in a garage and sell it to millions of users around the world. No factory, no distributor, no store shelf, just code and an idea. Google responded with its own mobile operating system called Android, which it gave away free to phone manufacturers. An operating system is the main software that runs a computer or phone. Android spread to hundreds of millions of cheaper phones worldwide, bringing the Internet to people who could never afford an iPhone. By 2012, more people were accessing the Internet through mobile phones than through desktop computers. The shift was historic. The Internet was no longer something you sat down to use. It was something you carried everywhere. It was always on. Always with you, always listening. In February 2005, 3 former PayPal employees, Chad Hurley, Steve Chen, and Jawed Karim, launched a website with a simple premise. Premise means the basic idea or starting point behind something. The premise was this: anyone should be able to upload a video, and anyone should be able to watch it for free. They called it YouTube. The very first video uploaded to YouTube was an 18-second clip of co-founder Jawed Karim standing in front of elephants at the San Diego Zoo. It was called Me at the Zoo. It was completely ordinary. And it was the beginning of something completely extraordinary. Google bought YouTube in 2006 for $1.65 billion. At the time, one of the largest acquisitions or purchases of a company in Internet history. Many people thought Google had overpaid. They were wrong. YouTube transformed what it meant to be a creator. Before YouTube, if you wanted a large audience, you needed a television network, a record label, or a movie studio to give you permission. These gatekeepers, people or organizations that control access to platforms and audiences, had enormous power. They decided who was heard and who was not. YouTube eliminated the gatekeeper. Suddenly, a teenager in their bedroom could make a video, upload it, and wake up the next morning with 1 million views. A cooking teacher in Vietnam could share her recipes with people in Brazil. A comedian in Nigeria could make people laugh in Canada. This gave birth to what we now call the creator economy, an economy or financial system built around independent individuals who create content and earn money directly from their audiences. By the mid-2020s, more than 50 million people worldwide considered themselves content creators. The old media world, built on scarcity, on the idea that only a few voices could be broadcast to many, was crumbling. In its place rose something noisier, messier, and more democratic. Democratic means giving power and voice to ordinary people rather than concentrating it among a few. Every great invention in human history has had a shadow side. Negative or harmful aspects come alongside something powerful. Fire kept humans warm, but it also burned villages. The printing press spread knowledge. It also spread propaganda, biased or misleading information used to manipulate people's beliefs. The Internet was no different. By the 2010s, something disturbing was becoming clear. The same algorithms that made social media so addictive also pushed people toward more extreme content. An algorithm is a set of rules a computer follows to make decisions, optimized for keeping your attention. The longer you stayed, the more ads were shown, and the more money the company made. The result was polarization, society splitting into two extreme groups, increasingly opposed and hostile. People were shown content that confirmed their existing beliefs, making them angry at the other side. Anger, fear, and outrage kept people scrolling. Nuance and complexity did not. In 2016, something alarming happened. False news stories spread across Facebook, reaching millions of voters. Foreign governments use social media to sow division and confusion in democratic countries. Meanwhile, a new problem was growing invisibly. Every click or purchase generated data. Data is information. This data painted a detailed portrait of who you were. Your interests, fears, health concerns, political beliefs, and relationships were all tracked. Technology companies collected and sold this data to advertisers. The product being sold, critics argued, was not a search result. The product was you. The Internet had promised freedom and connection, and it had delivered. But it also created new forms of addiction, surveillance, and manipulation. The world was still struggling to understand and fix. By 2010, the Internet was no longer a novelty. It was infrastructure. Infrastructure means basic systems a society depends on to function. Governments, hospitals, schools, banks, and militaries moved critical operations online. This created enormous efficiency. But it also created vulnerability. Vulnerability means weakness or being open to harm or attack. In 2010, a sophisticated computer virus called Stuxnet was discovered. It was secretly designed, reportedly by American and Israeli intelligence agencies, to destroy Iran's nuclear centrifuges. It was the first known cyber weapon, a piece of code causing real physical damage. The Internet had entered a new phase. It was no longer just communication and commerce. It was a battlefield. At the same time, a quieter revolution transformed everyday life. Cloud computing emerged, storing and accessing data and programs over the Internet, not your hard drive. Companies like Amazon Web Services built enormous data centers rented remotely by businesses. A small startup in Vietnam could use the same computing power as a Fortune 500 company for a monthly fee smaller than a restaurant meal. The cloud democratized digital age tools. For decades, artificial intelligence, AI, had been a dream of scientists and science fiction writers. AI means computer systems performing tasks normally requiring human intelligence. The Internet made AI real. AI systems learn by studying enormous amounts of data. The more data, the smarter they become. The Internet generated more data than any other system in human history. Fuel for AI. In 2012, a landmark moment. University of Toronto built AI recognizing images with stunning accuracy, identifying a cat, car, or human face. This ignited an explosion of investment and research in AI. By the late 2000s and 10s, AI was everywhere, often invisibly. It recommended your next Netflix show. It filtered spam. It translated languages. It helped doctors detect cancer. It wrote code. It composed music. In November 2022, OpenAI released ChatGPT, a conversational AI for sophisticated, detailed responses instantly. Within 5 days, 1 million users. Within 2 months, 100 million, fastest growing consumer application. The Internet began as a network of computers sharing data. Now, the network itself seemed to be thinking. It is easy to list technologies. It is harder to capture what those technologies actually felt like, how they changed the texture of daily human existence. Think about work. Before the Internet, most jobs required physical presence. You went to an office. You sat at a desk. The Internet slowly, then suddenly, dissolved these boundaries. Millions worked remotely by 2020s, communicating with colleagues on different continents through video calls and shared documents. COVID-19 pandemic accelerated this shift dramatically. Offices emptied, many jobs done from kitchen tables. Think about learning. Before the Internet, access to high-quality education was determined by geography and money. If born near a great university, opportunities existed. Small town or poor country, options limited. The Internet changed this. Platforms like Khan Academy, Coursera, YouTube offered world-class education within reach of anyone with a phone and connection. Student in rural Vietnam watched MIT lectures. Farmer in Kenya learned programming. Knowledge, for the first time, became genuinely borderless. Think about commerce, buying and selling. Shopping moved online. Physical stores disappeared, replaced by Amazon, Spotify, Google Flights. Enormous convenience for consumers, devastating traditional business. The Internet changed not just how people worked, learned, and shopped. It changed who they were, how they formed identities, found communities, and understood the world around them. Here is a paradox at the heart of the Internet age, a situation contradictory yet deeply true. The Internet connected more humans than any technology, yet loneliness has risen dramatically. More friends online than any generation. Many of us have never felt more alone. What happened? Researchers point to a crucial distinction. Crucial means extremely important. There is a difference between weak ties and strong ties in human relationships. Strong ties are deep, intimate connections, family, close friends, trusted neighbors. Weak ties are casual connections, acquaintances, colleagues, people you follow online. The Internet is extraordinarily good at multiplying weak ties. It is less effective at deepening strong ones. A like on a photograph is not the same as sitting with a friend during a difficult time. A comment thread is not the same as a conversation at a kitchen table. For all its power, the Internet struggled to replicate the irreplaceable warmth of physical human presence. This does not mean the Internet failed. It means the Internet is a tool. Like all tools, it reflects the intentions of the people who use it. Used thoughtfully, it can strengthen relationships, expand horizons, and amplify the best of human creativity. Used carelessly, it can hollow out real community, accelerate anxiety, and reward the loudest voice rather than the wisest one. The Internet gave humanity unprecedented power. What we choose to do with that power remains the defining question of our age. Unprecedented means never having happened or existed before. What is the true legacy of the Internet? Legacy means the lasting impact or contribution that something leaves behind for the future. In a single human lifetime, roughly 75 years, humanity went from mailing handwritten letters to sending instant messages across the globe. From relying on encyclopedias in public libraries to carrying the sum of human knowledge in a pocket-sized device. From entertainment controlled by a handful of television networks to a world where anyone, anywhere, can create and share their story with billions of people. The scientists and dreamers who built the Internet were not perfect. Some were motivated by military strategy, some by academic curiosity, some by profit. But woven through their story is a recurring or repeatedly appearing thread of generosity. Paul Barron shared his ideas openly. Tim Berners-Lee gave the web to the world for free. The researchers who built ARPANET published their protocols, that is, their technical rules and standards, openly so that anyone could build on their work. This culture of open sharing was the Internet's true founding principle. Not competition, not control, openness. The challenges ahead are real and serious. AI raises deep questions about the future of work and human creativity. The concentration of power in a small number of large technology companies poses risks to democracy and individual freedom. The environmental cost of running millions of data centers is enormous. Cybersecurity threats grow more sophisticated every year. But here is what history teaches us about this particular story. Every time the Internet faced a moment of crisis, the dot-com crash, the rise of misinformation, the threat of authoritarian censorship, it adapted. New builders appeared. New ideas emerged. The network rerouted, just as Paul Barron had imagined in 1962. The Internet, in this sense, is not just a technology. It is a reflection of human nature itself, messy, brilliant, generous, flawed, and stubbornly, persistently alive. Every great story is ultimately a human story. The story of the Internet is not really about wires and code. It is about fear, the fear that drove ARPA scientists to imagine a network that could survive a nuclear attack. It is about curiosity, the curiosity that led Tim Berners-Lee to wonder if documents could link to each other. It is about courage, the courage of two college students in a garage who believed that a computer could belong to every person, not just to governments and corporations. It is about generosity, one man choosing to give the World Wide Web to humanity rather than to himself. And it is about you. Every time you send a message to someone you love, every time you learn something new from a video or an article, every time you find a community of people who understand you in a city or a country you have never visited, you are part of this story. You are one of the billions of human beings whose daily choices and connections form the living, breathing fabric of the Internet. The Internet is the most powerful amplifier or magnifier of human intention ever created. It amplifies kindness and cruelty alike. It amplifies truth and lies alike. What it amplifies depends on what we feed it and what we, as human beings, choose to be. The story of the Internet age is still being written. The next chapter belongs to you. Hey there, just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.